Okay. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to open the January 9th, 2023 meeting of the Groveland Community Preservation Committee. Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. At 5:34.
Oh, this is another one.
Okay, so we've got the agenda that I passed out, and so what we're going to try to do is just briefly go through the process that we pretty much all know about, because we've all been doing this for a couple of years at least. And then what we're going to do is I handed out the description page from each of the projects, and I'll go briefly through each one just to give you a little info on them. And then we're going to hear on, we're just going to hear on just 3 of them out of the 11 tonight. Then what we'll do is we've got a request for administrative funds, a couple of those to talk about, review our minutes from a couple of meetings last year, have to talk about 2 empty openings in our committee membership, and then talk about our next meeting and how that fits in with the process. So, as I say, the process, typically, you know, we ask for proposals, we collect them by the end of the year, so we've done that. And then I put them all together and get them out to you as much as possible. I do have complete copies if you can't view them on your computer or something. I got a couple of copies of all of the projects. I didn't make them for everybody because they're large. And so once we get them, you know, we take a look at them, and then we meet and we hear from each of the project people, and they get to tell us a little bit about the project and answer questions about it. Then we may ask for some changes or, you know, edits or something about the project we want them to add in or remove. And they come back with those at the next time. And then finally, once we've done that with all the projects, we take a vote to pass them on to town meeting. Then we submit the warrants for the proposals to the selectmen. They put them on the town meeting warrant. The selectmen review them, the finance committee reviews them so they can make recommendations on them. And then it goes to town meeting and a vote is taken. So, you know, that's our typical process. Sometimes there's a little variance there, but this is what I'm expecting this year. I don't think we'll have any real hitches along the way. It's just that, the only thing is that this year we've got 11 projects, so it's gonna take us a little bit extra time to hear from all the project proponents. So the first thing that I wanted you to look at is the finance report. So that's on that handout that I gave you. So at the top in the left is the, where we stand now, the balance of all the non-committed funds. And so these are funds that, there's no project related in these. These are just monies that are available for new projects. And to the left of that, is the new balance. If we funded all the projects, these would be the new balances. just, subtracting what's down the bottom, 41,538 of historic funds and 1.475 million of general funds. That's what we end up with. And below that is the information about our FY '22 numbers. So in FY '22, we collected 422,635. We just got the final match from the state of 348,605, which brings us to a total of 771,240. And that's a 82.5% match by the state, which it's like since we got 100%, this is like the highest we've ever got. This is probably in the last 7 years, this is the highest that we've ever got. So that's pretty good. And then, we're 24th out of 187 towns in ranking of the amount of money, the percentage that we got. So that's pretty good. And the total that we've got ever since we've had CPA back in 2006, I think, is a little bit over 3 million. So we've done pretty good. And then to the right of that is the balance of the funds, the three set-asides, open space, historic, and community housing, and then general, with the new FY '22 numbers. Below that is the list of the 11 projects, rated by the amount that's requested down to the maximum, and what fund they're going to be taken out of, and what category they fit in. Any questions on this stuff? Pretty straightforward, but, I think it's just, we've done very well.
But we haven't done well with affordable housing.
We haven't done well with what?
Affordable housing.
Oh, yes. Well, right. We have an outstanding project with, that was voted 3 years ago to fund 2 affordable buy-downs. And I'll let Rebecca just give us a 30-second update on that project.
Of course, so essentially, with the market the way that it is, the monies that were allocated are not sufficient in terms of actually making a house affordable here in Groveland at the current time. We are still working with the Groveland Housing Authority as part of that project, which was for them to assist with the lottery and the affirmative fair marketing plan that would need to be put in place. So with the new director over there, it was former director Joe Hart. He's no longer there. It is now Clara Rodriguez. I'm not certain on her last name, but Clara. We've made contact with her, and we're working with her to get those put in place so that when we are able to move quickly and get the program implemented.
Yeah. But this is, I would say, affordable or community housing is the toughest one. We have done a lot of halfway things and come up with studies and plans and other things, and it's just a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we're not going to do it,
No, we'll make sure that we have it all in place so that when the houses, the market becomes a little bit more available, we will have something to work with.
Okay. So, take a look now. Let's move on to review the 2023. What I'm going to do is look in that handout I gave you that says requests for proposals. So, I'll just go through one at a time and just give you the brief overview, and then we'll hear about 3 of these with more, a little more in-depth and allow us to ask some questions about them. So, the first one is a request for a all-terrain utility vehicle for the Groveland Community Trail that would be used by the police and fire to be able to get onto the trail if there was a problem, if someone had a medical emergency, or there was vandalism or some other issue, because right now they don't easily have the ability to drive a fire truck, say, or an ambulance necessarily down the trail. And you'll also note that this one is a request for about 20% of the overall cost. So Annie Schindler, our environmental program coordinator and town planner, is putting a proposal into the state to pay for the majority, about 80% of purchasing the vehicle. So that's pretty good, because then we only have to put up 20% of about a little over $10,000. The next project is the Phase 2 for the rehabilitation of Lucille's Cottage. This is a Phase 2 of the project that was approved at town meeting last year, having to do with the rehab of Lucille's Cottage. And primarily, this year, they're working on, again, better defining what the cottage can be used for. Art space is the focus, and so they're gonna be doing some community events and working more with the artist and the architect to make that those plans more clear. Number 3 is, yes, okay. Number 3 is a visioning and feasibility plan for VZ Park. So in discussions with our town administrator and myself, I try to get her to realize that I'm not going to be around forever, and we have to think about sustainability and long-term planning for VZ Park. Rebecca wholly agreed with me, and this proposal would fund a consultant view to study VZ Park, how well it runs, what some of the requirements are, what are some of the restrictions, what's needed, and what could be done. Would it be best to hire employees under the town? Would it be best to have a private organization run it for us? Those are some of the options. So this would give us some more answers. And I think the selectmen kind of were, pushing this too. They want to kind of know about where VZ is going in the longer term. And as I say, that's $20,000. The next one is the put forward by the Groveland Historical Society. It's kind of a Phase 2. It's to complete the paving at Washington Hall and some hydro seeding there outside of the building. So this was another project that was previously funded. Some work, quite a bit of work has been done, right?
Yes.
Really, it's just a matter of finishing off the paving and completing the project. Because part of the reason is the price of paving has gone up so much
Oh, it sure
from
has.
when we probably got the estimate about 5 years ago. The next one is from the cemetery, put in by the cemetery superintendent. And this is a project to restore many of the older grave markers, the headstones, footstones, and some monuments in a particular area of the cemetery that needs a lot of work. In the full project, there's a very good description of which stones and which memorials need to be fixed. This is an effort that began probably about almost 8 years ago under Bob Guptill. He had started this, come up with a plan, and we had hired consultants to give us some ideas on which stones need to be done and when they could be done, what it was going to cost. So this is kind of, again, another multi-phase thing that we started a while ago, but obviously couldn't do all in 1 year. The next one is from the Recreation Committee, and it has to do with improving the basketball court at Washington Park. So this is for $44,395 under the recreation category. And I'm not sure if you've seen the court over there at Washington Park, but it's worth taking a ride. This is kind of behind Washington Hall. It's in rough shape, you know, and myself living in South Groveland, South Groveland, we don't have a lot of recreation stuff over there, so this is good. This kind of gives the kids on the other side of town something to do if they don't want to ride all the way over to the Pines.
Mike, just to interrupt you,
Yes.
you have the other page where it says community need.
Thank you, I was thinking the same thing.
It's not continued on the other page.
Oh, yeah,
Last sentence.
yeah. I didn't print those extra pages, but here's a copy of all. Sorry
I
about
just
that.
want to know what the next sentence is.
See if you can find it in there.
About the basketball courts.
The courts are popular, and on the on the weekend, the courts are. Right, I don't know what are they.
Thank you. Keep on flipping back and forth.
Okay, so when you find that, Ed, let me know.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Oh, what does it say?
You want to make a copy of it?
You could just read it.
The courts are popular on the weekend and the courts are full. The location of Washington Park behind the South Fire Station is inadequate. The courts are in poor condition and are hardly used because there's no netting, lines, et cetera. And then below is just a diagram of the location and what's proposed.
Mr. Chair, I've seen those. It's in bad shape.
Yep. Okay. The next project is from Conservation Commission, and it's all about trees. So it comes under the historic preservation category because Groveland has a lot of historic trees, and the commission is concerned. The commission is trying to do some things with new developments and requiring more trees be planted when they're cut down. But along with that, we've got the historic trees along Elm Park, and then we've got quite a few places at Vesey Park also that have trees that are aging or have been overtaken by invasive species that will drive you crazy. So what this project is going to do, it's kind of a multifaceted project. It's going to fund a pilot project up at the top of the hill at Vesey Park to plant trees using a special method to help them to thrive. Also do an improvement along the Washington Street corridor by VZ Park, plant some larger trees there and clear up some of the invasives that are right along the street. And then the third part of it is to repair the trees along Elm Park. There's quite a few trees based on a survey that was done by the Highway Department that need attention and need kind of immediate attention. So that will be the third part. And then there's some smaller things, tree giveaways, becoming a Tree City USA as part of the project. There's a lot in there, so hopefully you can read the full thing.
That's for 105,000.
And that's a 105,
And
yep.
about how many trees would that cover?
How many trees?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know, hundreds, I would say hundreds of trees.
So you figure $100 a
Based
tree?
on what's going on today with water resources being tight, is this the right time to be putting in more trees and
Well,
we have to clean them up in the fall? I have a lot of trees, so I know what I spend for cleanup. It's a lot of money. So
It's
I'm
ki-
just wondering.
it's a combination of planting trees, but also taking care of the trees that we've already got. So it's kind of a combination. You know, like, I think when you plant trees, especially if you plant only seedlings, you're lucky if, you know, half of them will survive 10 years. So the more that we plant, and the more we can encourage people to plant their own trees in their own yards, the better off we'll be. But also, like I say, taking care of the trees that we've got, like along Elm Park in particular, is
I'm just trying to
important.
keep mine up.
Yeah, well, right, I mean, anyone who has trees in their yard knows the problems that we're facing. Okay, so moving along, the next project is a splash pad at the Pines, again, from the Recreation Committee. This is for 110-393, and this would be a recreation facility for younger children at the Pines. We don't really have anything that covers that age group, other than, well, the swings and stuff area does, but this is gonna add another area to keep our little kids occupied in town, and I think really make an attractive addition to the Pines.
Where would this go? Give me a visual. When I come in from the Main Street, where is this splash pad gonna go? Go by the dog park? Is it beyond the restrooms?
So the proposal is, yes, beyond the restrooms and right where you see the parking lot when you comes into that L, that little like square shape there,
Yeah,
right before there.
right
So it'd
before
be-
that, that's right after the restrooms, that spot.
But in the back, yep.
In the back, so it's
Yep.
near the playground and all that.
Exactly. They're typically located in the near vicinity of a playground and most of the other locations that we looked at.
I don't want to spend a lot of time. Is there going to be a presentation at the next meeting? Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that a lot of times it's overlooked when you talk about things like playgrounds and splash pads. There's a very key social impact, not only for the kids, but for the stay-at-home parents that bring their kids. It gives them an opportunity to get out and socialize with other adults instead of just being trapped in their house with kids all the time.
The next one is a combination tennis court, pickleball courts at the Pines. And that request is again from the Recreation Committee for 154-110. This new court would be placed below where the playground is, kind of next to the restrooms. And The idea with this one is, originally, we had funded quite a while ago, I can't remember exact year, but we had funded tennis courts at the Pines, but they never were put in, and the money was used on irrigation mostly. So, but the thing was that, it was kind of questionable whether tennis courts were really desired. But this project is about putting a combination tennis court and pickleball court in that could be used for either sport. Pickleball, if you don't know, is highly popular game. It's kind of like ping pong on a larger scale. Is the best way I can describe it. I've never played it, but it's in large demand. And every other town that's put them in is like they're constantly in use. They're in demand. So this is another positive draw for the Pines.
Mr. Chair, I heard that Haverhill just put one in by the football field.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll check that out.
The next one is a skate park at the Pines. This is a request for a skate park. It's driven by some young people in town who have been requesting a skate park. I know I've talked to people a few years ago. I was down there talking to some kids, and they were asking me, when are we going to get a skate park? When are we going to get a skate park? And so this is going to be a top quality skate park, and it's not going to be your run-of-the-mill skate park. This is going to be another top quality attraction for younger people. And obviously, it's expensive, $450,000, but that's what these kind of things cost. It'll be built by a professional company that specializes in skate parks. And where is the skate park going to go?
This looks like it's where the existing skate park is.
Oh, over, yeah.
Over by the Verizon Tower? Oh, good, that's out of the way. Didn't they attempt that once?
That was my understanding, is that they had put an original pad there. It was much smaller, and they had some apparatuses, but it never really became much.
Never mind.
Okay.
Jimmy,
Yep.
bring these down, Jay.
I just want to get a visual.
And then during the Elm Park
Thank you.
business meetings that we had, a lot of the businesses down there were in support of this,
They're not paying for it.
of course.
Well,
$450,000 is a lot of
the
money.
thing is, if you give people a skate park where they can go, they're not gonna be all over other parts of the town riding their skateboards, driving people crazy, right?
Yes, which is why the businesses were in
Yes.
favor of it.
Well, they didn't use the other one that much.
Yeah, I think it wasn't as, the people come and go with it, if there's a better one somewhere else, they go to that one, and that kind of thing. And I think the one that we had wasn't that much of an attraction.
I was told that it was too small so that you couldn't actually skate, and that the apparatuses that they had weren't solid construction material, like steel or something that they could use to do any of their tricks or anything of that nature, and that they constantly had to repair them and seek different types of materials to use in place of it. So that was kind of the understanding that I was given when I spoke to some
What kind of ice, is it ice skates?
No. They're inline skating, they're skateboarding. So basically what happens is they have different ramps and bowls and poles in which they ride. And they get their thrills going up and down within this concrete skate park.
Is there one in a local area that I could look at?
The only one that I know of that I know from personally is down by Nashua Street. They built a big one there that spent a lot of time and money down by the Charles River, and that gets
Oh,
constantly
Boston,
used.
okay.
This one, there's one over in Amesbury. So if you look at the one at Amesbury, there's a Amesbury skate park, splash pad, and their playground, all within the same vicinity within their town park.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good example.
And the last project is the parking creation at Shanahan Fields. Again, from the Recreation Committee, and this is for $550,000. If you recall, last year, we had a project brought in to address some of this area, but we didn't feel there was enough information about the things that were involved in that project. So we kind of sent it back with Rebecca to look into it more. So this is what she came back with, and it involves improving the landscaping, improving the parking area for that recreation field, soccer primarily, and also dealing with the historic building there. If you recall last year, the idea was to move the historic building. This year, it's not, to keep the building where it is, but improve the area all around it. So that's what this last one is about. So we are gonna hear from 3 of these projects a little bit more. Rather than me blabbing about them, we'll let other people tell you about them and any other questions that we've got, because we got to go through all of them like this. But tonight, we'll just do 3 of them for time's sake. So the first one we'll do is the Washington Hall paving. Linda is here, so she can tell us a little bit more about it than what I said, and why she thinks we should fund this project.
Well, we've never had a top coat. We just got the second half of it paved very recently. And it needs a top coat so it can be stabilized. And we also need some hydroseeding underneath and around, because it's, right now it's just dirt, and every time it rains, the dirt goes right down. So what we're looking for is to get a top coat on so we can have safe access. Right now, it's difficult, especially for people who have handicaps too.
Did that being said, why don't we just finish what we started?
I'm sorry?
Just finish what we started. That's all.
Yeah, that's what they want to do, but they don't have enough money.
That's what it is.
We've been piecing it together.
Yes. I mean, that was the original intent, is to finish paving the place, but like I say, I
It
think
hit a little snag.
when we, the estimate came from, it was at least 4 years ago that we got the estimate from your original request, and, you know, the price just has gone up on that.
It's incredible how much it's gone up.
Yeah, crazy.
Does that
Again, it's gonna
cover
be
the
that
bottom
it's gonna go
parking
up
lot?
every year, and the further we wait, the more damage we're gonna do to it. So knock it out, get it done before.
As I said, the second half was just paved within the past couple of months.
Oh, okay. Yep, yep. Well,
Now, we want to get the whole top, the final coat on.
if we, this thing proceeds, they'll be ready to go July 1.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, our timeline is July 1, and hopefully, we could have everything done by October, depending on availability, obviously, of vendors. Can't predict that, certainly.
Any other questions on this? And you have a 10%
I included the
contingency in
10%
there.
for
Yeah, yeah,
contingency and
yeah.
$1,000 for signage.
Yep, great,
That's all included.
yep. All right.
And the head of the highway department, Rennie Carroll, has been very helpful in helping us get the price quotes and do some thinking through how things are gonna go.
Okay. All right, so if we don't have any other questions, then we can move on to the second one, which we'll talk about, the Shanahan Field project.
So essentially, the project proposes to create a parking lot within the same area that people are using for parking now. However, clearly delineating the spaces and helping move vehicles that are parking along Main Street during the youth soccer season and clouding up the roadway and also blocking driveways and access to the residents along Main Street and Gardner Street, and give them a designated parking location. This also will help provide additional parking for recreational use at the trail, which is just shortly up the street and connected through the sidewalk connection, and also provide parking for future projects that involve the trail along the Merrimack River. That was something I believe some of the students were working on getting more established in the past, and it kind of fell to the wayside during COVID, and something that I've heard that the groups are looking to bring back and utilize a bit more. So the project essentially, again, is to provide a parking lot. We worked with an engineering firm to get a very preliminary concept that was included in the application. You'll see that that's not essentially the final design. Obviously, you have to invest in some funds in order to get things finalized, so we wanted to spend minimal monies in order to come up with a concept that worked and was in the best interest of both the youth leagues that would be utilizing the fields, the neighboring abutters, as well as the house that sits on the site that is owned by the Historical Society and is a residence. So they have a tenant that lives there, and we wanted to make sure that we had a clear delineation of that particular house from the parking lot. Currently now, and even as you'll see in the aerial included in the application, people are parking right up to the house's door. So not even utilizing the field, these are neighbors who have houses across the way and are just parking their cars right in front of her house. So it would allow a more designated driveway that is clearly defined to the residents, and then also would provide that clear delineation from River's Edge, which is another access point to a home in the back. We reached out to the Historical Society and received a letter of support. We reached out to the Youth Soccer League and received a letter of support. And we've also been working with the abutters who are present here today, and also received their support. So included in this, you'll see the estimate that was put together by TEC. Obviously, as we mentioned, it was very preliminary, just to get the conversation going and to provide an estimate that we could work with. So there are ways that we could scale the price down, but again, due to timing and the way everything was shaping out, we just wanted to be thorough and make sure that we presented all of our options, and if needed or if required, we could tone that down based upon what the committee and or others had for input. So those have all been included as part of the submission. We are definitely hopeful that we will receive your support. There causes a lot of traffic concerns, and if there is any future development and or not development, but if there is any future change in the town center and there's businesses or the recent purchase of the Stark and Cronk building, and whether or not that gets utilized for a restaurant or something of that nature, again, provides more parking for the town center, which is in the near vicinity. So it does provide multiple points of use from multiple different aspects. But I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Question? The only parking lot I know about is Washington Park, the baseball park. And relative to the size of this parking lot, is it bigger than that, or is it smaller, or is it about the same size?
It would be a little bit bigger than that.
But it would be around that size.
About, the proposal that is submitted is about 80 parking
80
spots.
spots, and out of 80 spots.
80 spots?
Third
Okay.
has to be handicapped.
Yes, there is handicap parking.
Well, there's only like 2 at the baseball field.
That was
So-
my question. 80, how many spots?
It would be compliant. So we would double check with the ADA coordinator to make sure that we had the appropriate designated spots.
And then we'd be cutting, so that there would be access for the wheelchairs and stuff going into the field.
Yes.
No, another thing I was thinking about, and I think we talked about this in the past, and, I somehow I like to try to get, crosswalk lights at the park for the dog parking for these kids, cut across that main street. I know you say it's state property, but is there a way that we can write a letter to the state, I don't know, it's transportation, and request that they come down and do some kind of study, because they need it, and especially at night.
No, 100%. We can continue to petition the state and see whether or not a flashing beacon of some sort could be placed around, along 113, specifically in the vicinity of the Pines Recreation Area.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a couple questions. Just to back up, did I hear you correctly when you said that the 80 parking spaces that you're talking here at the soccer field, that was also going to supplement the parking in Groveland Square? If you said if the restaurant got off the ground, and hopefully it does, that you think people are going to park there and walk down to the restaurant in Groveland Square?
They could. I mean, in little conversations that I've had, people say that they enjoy the walk along the river and the view that you get when you walk along Main Street down to the Bates Bridge and then over and up towards the Pines. They take their dog, they go for walks, and they go to the dog park, or they take their kids to the park because there's a nice.
That's not going to be utilized for parking for somebody going into the restaurant. They're going to park along Main Street.
No, but the trail will use it.
And also, that every community that has a rail trail, they have the trailhead parking, and I've been on rail trails in, like, probably 5 states now. And every one of them has trailhead parking. And I don't think you're gonna expect people to park down at the Shanahan Field and walk to the rail trail by SD Lumber and park a fence. I don't see it. People, when they go to a rail trail, if they take their bicycle, have it on the back of their vehicle, they want to park right near the rail trail and ride the rail trail a couple of times. And it happens down in Newburyport, it happens down in Amesbury. There's parking right at the rail trail. Those are just the two. Haverhill, same thing. And I could name every other rail trail that's around.
And when and I definitely agree with you, and there is plans for parking along the trailheads of both sides, by the Haverhill side and by the Georgetown side, but this was just an excessive overflow if those parking spots were there. We don't want people parking in their neighborhood, we don't want people, going down into the subdivisions and causing, an inconvenience to the neighbors. It just offers another option for them to park that's close enough that they could in fact jump on the trail. But
consequently-
convenience factor, I would agree.
But consequently, excuse me for interrupting, but consequently, I know if somebody was parking in my driveway and blocking my driveway, I'd be calling the police down, and it won't be a pleasant conversation. I mean, I understand perfectly clear. And one of the ladies in the back has a question, if that's okay.
So Sarah McGrath, 427 Main Street. I am one out of 3 abutters. My mom is the other one. We're neighbors. She lives on River's Edge. I live off Main Street. So I'll say a few things. One, people now today park there and walk to our rail trail. They do it today. I see them with their bicycles, their roller skates. They come with their children. If they have dogs, they'll run their dogs around, then they walk to the rail trail. So I see it being actively used today. I will say that there are numerous occasions that my mother's driveway has been blocked. She has not been able to. If you needed to get a fire truck through it, you couldn't. It's been a problem. People park in the driveway, in her actual driveway, and they say, "Oh, I can't believe there's a house there." Feel free to drive by. She lives in a ranch house. You can't miss it. It's a 3-car garage. It's just constant. When they built their home in '87, the school was there. It was not being utilized anymore. It was knocked down in '89, and that parking lot has sat there for years. It's just nothing's ever been done to utilize it. The in and out of that, if you see at the end of the driveway, there's crumbling of that parking lot. The woman that lives there and rents, the Historical Society, she has people constantly coming up, still will walk into her home thinking it's still the Historical Society. They'll park in front of her house. She is handicapped. She does have MS. There's a lot of different things that I would ask you to consider. I'm happy to go in extensively and give you a longer list than that, but I won't take up all that time. But there's a lot to consider. So I hope that you really do, because it will only improve this area and just make it look 100 times nicer than what it looks now. And these people deserve parking spots. I mean, they're parking on the grass that we're maintaining because they can't get to a spot close enough. I mean, delineating spots, people stop abusing things that they shouldn't be. Simple as that.
I just question the cost. $550,000 for 80 parking spaces. That seems way excessive.
Yes.
So that also includes lighting, it also includes landscaping, and it also includes, again, delineating the house from the parking lot to ensure safety and make sure that it's separate from the lot.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the paperwork in here for that.
So if you look at the construction cost estimate, it says all of the,
Yeah, I'm looking for the, any paperwork on that. I don't see it in this. It's gotta be here, I just can't
That's
find
okay.
it.
So the question is, do we go through the procedure of getting three quotes? Is that how we worked it? Or are we still gonna go open bid and try to get 3 contractors and see who could help us out the most?
we would have to go out for procurement for this project, so we would have to detail the specifications and get, put it up on Combis, the Central Register, and see what the contractors came back with for prices, and hopefully one of them would come in a little bit lower.
Nice, nice.
Are we gonna talk about this again? My concern is we don't have, the quote is with lighting. We don't have lighting now, it works, okay? So, I agree, the cost is very high. Can't we get make it officially the highway department do a lot of the work and we'll budget them for it versus paying a contract? I mean, that's a lot of money.
We can work with the highway department to see what work they could do in-house. It does also include drainage that would be associated with the parking lot, because currently it's just grass and then there's that strip, so there's drainage. And the lighting is
Water and
something that the soccer league has been looking at for quite some time in terms of providing lighting for their operation for later in the evening and safety concerns, and it was something that was added. As we said, we went for it all, but if we wanted to, we could definitely try and take a few of those items and remove them, and get the price down.
I mean, the baseball field doesn't have lighting, except on the field. Why does the parking lot need to have lighting? I mean, we've got to cut some money here. I mean, let's be, I'm for the parking lot. I'm against the amount of money it's going to take. We've got to sharpen our pencil. We need to bring the highway department in on this. I mean, Mike had the whole BZ Park hot top by Bob secure before he left. So there is economy if we use them, in my mind. And you can always add lighting after anyway. You can put the
But
piping
it's
in the
under,
ground to
we
get
have
ready.
to wire it before they lay it all down. It all has to be there. And so that's the prep, to have all the conduits and all the wiring and all the boxes put in place. So if you did want to do lighting in the second phase, we could do that also.
I will say, to have the lighting in there for someone that lives there, there's increased, I'm not gonna use the word crime, because I'm not gonna accuse, but there's a lot of people that go there, it's dimly lighted, they're parked there for hours. I can tell you offhand, I think we've called the police at least 10 times. I mean, if people are gonna park there, we want the soccer field to use it more than they do now, right? That's, the soccer league, they can use it extended hours, they could break up the parking, their teams have at least, an hour break into it, so they're not having parking along Main Street. So having the lighting for safety and if you're gonna spend this kind of money, you want your lighting so that you can utilize it to the best of your ability. They can have make a larger league, have people come on during the week. They're just now only using on Saturdays and Sundays. They deserve to be able to use it more than that. I'm sure the soccer league would say the same thing, but my personal opinion is definitely the safety portion.
I'd like to see better defined plans, and we got, I did find it here.
You did.
I did. But as far as like listing for a guardrail, a berm, I'd like to find out where those are going. It doesn't look like it. There's a couple of trees to be removed. Where are they? So I think we just need some more information on this.
I agree with you 100%, but again, like Rebecca was saying, we're only in the beginning phase. Once we turn around, we get a plan put in place. At that point, we could turn around, compensate a wood barrier, a wood guardrail as opposed to a metal guardrail. We could turn around and ask them their opinion. We could do all that later, but for right now, we understand what needs to get done.
Yeah, this is the plan here, basically, but it doesn't show where the lights,
No,
where the lights are gonna be.
no, and again, this is only preliminary. I'm sure the architects and I'm sure Rebecca and all of us will sit down and try to determine what's the proper amount of lightage. I mean, we all may say, we want 20, and they may say to us, 6 of it will be sufficient. And right there, just cut the cost in 1/3. You know what I'm saying? Let the engineers do their job, and let's figure it out when we get to that point. But
And-
until then,
And you got, there's listed here, sidewalk. Well, I had it.
Concrete sidewalk, $19,285.
Thank you. Cement, concrete, where?
Right in front of the site, so that you could have the access into the existing.
and again, if you're gonna have a handicap accessibility, you should have a path that's concrete or tarred for them to be able to walk comfortably or ride comfortably.
Yeah, I'd like to see some more information on that. It seems like a lot of money, $550,000.
So is it possible to get more information?
So we can definitely work and see if the engineers would be willing to, work with us and alter the concept and alter the estimate. Maybe shrink the parking lot, do away with a couple of parking spots and see whether or not we can get that cut down.
Right now, it's 88 spots.
So we could,
With,
and we already talked about adding a second egress, because there's only one into and out of the site. So we've talked about eliminating, I think, 8 parking spots in order to accommodate on that other side, so that there's another access point.
I don't know that would change the cost, though.
No, but in terms of the number, that's why we went with 80.
But again, with the fire department may request that, you know what I'm saying? The other thing also is I'd like to see in the future is a swing gate and have the parking lot locked up at 7 o'clock at night, so that there aren't cars sitting out there all night doing whoever. You know what I'm saying? That's just a safety issue that I see, but that's later on down the road.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have people work at night in town. Unless you want to volunteer to lock it, it'll be available.
Done it for a
to you,
living, so for 35 years.
you know.
So, why don't you see what you can do to get more information? You kind of heard some of the questions and concerns. I think it's hard to kind of cut things down. We could consider funding it in like 2 phases or something like that, right? So anything that might answer people's questions and concerns before our next meeting, or I would say, in the next 3 or 4 weeks, if you can come up with more information for us.
Certainly.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be difficult, because the majority of that cost is simply excavation and paving.
Yeah.
And oil, oil's gone up, and that's what 90% of hot top.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We can't argue the fact that there's an inflation going on and prices are rising, and we just have to learn to deal with that, just like homeowners and just like regular people living through the streets today. It's just a matter of fact.
Okay.
But the benefit is our kids, our grandkids, and the neighbors who are here. And that's where we care about.
Okay. Thanks, Rebecca. So, the last project that I will talk about in a little more depth is the tree project. And so, the idea with the tree project, as I already said, it involves kind of two things: planting more trees and encouraging, do some very specific things to encourage planting more trees responsibly, and then preserving the trees that we've got, again, as much as possible. I've worked pretty closely with Rennie Carroll, the highway superintendent, about some of the ideas, and particularly on Elm Park. He's already spent money to have a kind of a preliminary report done. And based on that, he got a more intense quote to get a plan put in place on what needs to be done now, and then how can the ongoing maintenance be taken care of. The other thing that he provided me was a quote from a local tree company to do the immediate preservation work. It involves trimming some of the trees. That's kind of the easy part, but there's problems with several of the trees, with their root systems being causing a problem, and eventually it's going to kill the tree. And then there's even I think there's 3 trees that are being held together by metal, and so all of those trees are at risk. And unfortunately, when you look at them, they look great. I mean, they look fantastic with the Christmas lights on them even. But, take away 2 or 3 or 4 of them, it's going to start looking kind of strange, because they're planted all at the same time. They're lined up. They're all the same kind of trees. So it gives you a very unique space when you're looking at it, and it'd be unfortunate to just let it go without doing anything to try to prevent further problems to some of those trees. Not to say that eventually, some of those trees will die, but if we can preserve them for as long as possible, all the better.
So you really need an arborist to
Yeah,
figure,
yeah.
not a guy that cuts trees.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's what the first proposal we've got for paying for the Elm Park is from an arborist, and he's gonna come in and put a plan together and say exactly what needs to be done. And then the tree company gave the highway department a quote on some of the the repair work that needs to be done to the trees. Because you don't wanna just have a tree company come in, because that's what they do, is cut trees. The other things at the top of VZ Park is a ongoing project that was started by Diana Lardo. She's a master gardener, and she's working on this pilot project to prove it. At the top of the hill at VZ Park, there's an area that has been slowly but surely taken over by huge invasive vines and species. It's killing some of the trees up there. So her idea was to try to clear out the the invasives, but put something in its place so they don't just come back, because some of what we found up at VZ is, you know, you clear out the invasives, and then a couple years later, they're right back there again. So this plan that she put in place, it's called the Miyawaki method. It's being tested in Cambridge and a couple other towns in Massachusetts, but it's kind of a unique way of planting the trees so they help each other grow. And then the third part of the biggest part of the project is Washington Street. And so some of the concern that the commission have on Washington Street is to kind of clean it up and make it more attractive, rather than just, you know, piles of brush there on either end of the park with hills of, again, of invasive vines. So a lot of that would be ripped up, and we would plant about 12 new maples and oaks to complement the existing line. There's a line of about 7 or 8 maples and oaks on Washington Street, so it would be an extension on either end to kind of make it more symmetrical. And again, like I say, the other part of it is educating the town on planting trees, helping people to understand why trees are important, getting people to plant trees through tree seedling giveaways, and also, like I say, education programs. And that goes along with Tree City USA. We can become a Tree City USA. We've never made the effort. And again, the Highway Department is very interested in working with Conservation Commission on getting this done. It brings a lot of recognition, opens us up to be able to apply for other grants for trees, and it's a significant thing. You know, they give you these signs to put up, you know, Groveland is a Tree City USA, and so it's kind of exciting to do it. So that's what this project involves, and the total funding on it is $105,000. Any questions on this one?
Well, we had a water ban this year, so.
Yeah.
This would be all dependent upon whether we continue to have water bans. I
Yeah.
mean, that would be a big, so depending on natural, I know a lot about planting trees because I was in landscaping. Initially, when you plant them, you have to water them every day.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep.
otherwise they die. And this year, a lot of trees got stressed because there was no rain. So
Yeah.
I don't know if the timing is really right for this. We should be thinking about planting cactus.
Yes, that's
you
right.
know. I mean, the climate is changing, so I'm just wondering, you know.
Yeah. Well, part of the project is also to educate homeowners about planting trees, because you can't just stick a seedling in the ground, as you know, and hope for the best. You know, you have to take care of it. So a big part of it is going to have to be educating people and also making sure we take care of the trees that we do plant.
Well, part of this, reading the paperwork, part of this is for irrigation, for planting the trees at the approach, the entrance to VZ Park.
Yep.
The budget is the bridge of the fencing and drip irrigation system for the first 2 to 3 years until the establishment of the plantings.
Yeah.
The irrigation will system be monitored. Well, that, you made a good point as far as the water ban, is that not gonna be able to water it.
Yeah, so the project that's at the top of the hill is gonna have an irrigation system, a temporary irrigation system built into it.
But again, going back to what he said, if
Yeah.
there is a ban from the town, what do you do about that?
Where's the water coming from?
Yes. Well, you don't need to, it's not so much the volume of water, it has to do more with watering when they need it. And a drip irrigation system is the way to manage it best, because you're not pouring tons of volume of water on trees to get them watered. They're slowly irrigated.
And dripping.
Yeah, but you're not using as much water. You're using only what's absolutely necessary.
Doesn't that set a bad precedent? The town can use water to water the trees, but yet somebody can't use it to water their lawn.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
based on what you're saying, when is the time frame that you were thinking about even considering this
Well,
planted? Because again, what he was saying, we do it in the spring,
right,
we're getting into the summer, lo and behold, these babies are only a couple of months old. Now at the crisis part of the needing the water, and like he said, we look like jerks
yeah,
running water
right.
when everybody else has been told your grass could turn brown.
Mr. Chairman, I think Elm Square was accepted from the water ban this year.
Okay. Yeah, we
But-
were, I know we
But
were.
I think money spent on that, since they're there,
Mhm.
should be taken care of. But this other thing could be done in a whole different phase. I mean, that's just my thinking.
No doubt how to preserve what we have,
Yeah.
keep them alive and spend the money towards that. And I'd like to see the botanists come in for the diseases. And the other thing I'd like to see them do is grab a couple of students from some university and take them out with them and teach these kids about the diseases and what goes on and do some studies for us.
Yep,
Because what's happening to those trees happening in my tree, my house, and his house, and her house, and everybody else's. And I've got 20 down trees in my backyard. So that's what's gotta get spread and teach the people. So I'd rather spend money on that. I don't know about you guys.
I got more leaves than I ever want. You know?
yeah, so obviously, we wouldn't, be necessarily doing this all in 1 year at all at one time.
But you're asking for all the money right now. Why don't we
Yes, but-
appropriate it in phases?
Well, right, we could maybe do that.
And put
Think about,
dependencies, that's.
think about breaking it up.
Yeah. Do it on 25,000 increments.
Okay, any other questions on that? All right. So next time, we'll hear on the remaining 8 projects. In the meantime, Linda, Rebecca, and I will take into account what's been said and see if we can start to address some of the ideas that were expressed. Okay. The next thing is the administrative fund requests. So there's 2 of these. The first one is some emergency repairs to Washington Hall, which is a historic building that we've funded work before on, and planning on funding some work this year. So Claire Walsh is here, and she's gonna tell us about the issue. Why don't you come up to the front, so? Yeah, oh, please, yeah. Thanks.
I'll put them back in where they belong.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna see if we can't get a, is that one too? Yeah. I'm gonna see if we can't get a copy.
It's on.
Thank you.
It is? Can't hear much back there.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
No, those don't work in this room so
Let
much
me
as
get
they
you a
do for
chair.
the TV.
Let me get you a chair.
Oh, I can sit over there. I can sit over there.
Yeah, there you go.
What'd you do?
Sit at the head of the
They
table.
do, we just turn it down.
No, I
Gotcha.
want to take your, I want to take your seat.
Hey, take it. Well, we have a new member.
An old member. Okay, good evening, everyone. This is really small figures compared to what I've heard so far tonight. But it's big for the Historical Society budget. So, every 2 years, we need to have the handicap lift inspected by the state, and we have to have the alarm people in to check the alarm system. So, anyway, make a long story short on that, it's like $2,000 a pop, so every 2 years. After that was done this year, then we found out that the alarm system wasn't working properly. So we tried to work with the fellow that we had been using to no avail. So we got Omni Security in, Byfield to come out, and all our equipment was, just not any good anymore. It was just broken, and they couldn't get new parts for it, so they had to replace the parts. So it came to $1,245. So, between that and the lift, it was kind of a chunk of change. So we're just wondering if it would be possible to submit this for administrative funds.
What are we looking at, $2,000?
No,
Here it is.
$1,245.
Is that okay? If we voted in favor for it, we could give her the
Of
funds?
course.
Well, I'm asking Mike if it's
I'm sorry.
legal.
Yeah.
Okay?
This would be paid for, this, this would be paid for by administrative funds. So, every year we set aside a certain amount of administrative funds to be used for like things similar to this, or appraisals, or staffing, or other project-related items. So,
In maintenance?
Hmm.
In maintenance?
no, not maintenance.
Even with the security system?
It's not really maintenance, this is a complete replacement of
A
their.
replacement.
This is
okay.
Yeah,
new.
yeah.
For 1,240?
I mean, it was the insides, the box didn't have to be replaced, and the wiring was all done.
Okay.
So it was just like the inside working
You have
of
a
the
writ-
alarm.
You have a written quote on that?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't need to see it, just asking. Thank you. So what do you want us to do? Approve it?
If you would, that would be great.
We voting on this? I make a motion to approve the amount of $1,245 to fix the alarm system, replace the alarm system at Washington Hall. Do I have a second?
is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Any other questions about it?
I only have a question about the funds that you collect from the rent you collect from the house. Where does that go, and how much is that a year?
Well, we just paid almost $1,000 to insure Washington Hall for the year, and another $500 to insure the little building for the year. Utilities, we have a lot of bills. I could show you a spreadsheet. I don't have it with me, but
Sorry, insure Washington Hall, like
for
Property
our
insurance?
property inside the building
like the real
and for
property.
liability, say someone gets hurt.
Well, the town has insurance.
Right,
We
right,
cover Washington Hall as part of our
right.
insurance.
But if they wanted to sue the Historical Society on top of the town of Groveland, that's the way I understand it, and it was explained to me that we should do it this way.
Almost like a renter's insurance,
Yeah,
where the
Pre-
owner of
pretty-
the property
pretty
would have
much.
the real property, and contents would be the Historical Society.
right, right.
Well, it sounds like an opportunity for the town administrator to take a look at that.
Claire, are you required to provide a report to the town of your finances?
No, no.
would you be open to providing the town a report of your finances?
What would it entail?
Well,
Like
just
the Easy Podcast.
how much income you get and how much you spend.
It's, we spend a lot.
Oh,
Basic-
I don't
I
doubt
don't-
it, I'm just saying,
Yeah, I don't see why not.
since, I think it would aid in the transparency of what's going on, you know, a lot of people might think that jeepers, you know, why do they get this deal or something, you know, I don't agree with that at all, but, you know, you've got two town buildings on town property that you're in charge of, and yet,
Well,
Nobody really knows.
one town building.
no, but.
The Knox building belongs to
Okay.
the Historical
All
Society.
right, so it belongs to you, but it's still two places on two different town properties, and especially like we're asking money for Shanahan Field, people say, well, gee whiz, you know, what's going on here? So, again, not because we think there's anything wrong, but I just think it would aid in the transparency if,
Well, you know, we have to supply, you know, we have to repair things at the Knox building. This past year, in the summertime, we spent a lot of money on it. Doesn't look like it, but the front of the building, all the wood on the top part, on the peak, the clapboard had to be replaced, the flashing had to be replaced. That was like $2,000. And then, you know, the painting was over $1,000.
You need
So was it safe to say there are years where you're in the red and there are times in a year you're in the black?
We haven't been in the red, really.
Okay.
You know, I mean,
But
we're
you
not
know
in
what I'm
the-
saying,
we're not in
major
the black
repairs
by
could-
a
right.
whole lot.
But you need $1,245.
But,
My only point of bringing it up is that Washington Hall is a town-owned building that's
Mm-hmm.
leased to the Historical Society. The town has a responsibility in order to maintain its infrastructure, and that includes its buildings. So as your landlord,
Mm-hmm.
the town should know what's happening to the building and what's happening inside the building so that. maybe
well,
there's a-
it's
but like a
inspected
duplication
every
of-
year.
But if it's a duplication of services, if the insurance is covered and you need to have additional insurance for all of the artifacts within the building, that might be one thing or what have you. But if there's a way to do things a little bit more efficiently, I'm just curious. as
No,
to,
I,
like-
I understand, you know, how you're looking at it seriously, but, you know, like I said, the way it was explained to me was, you know, we have our contents, and then we have, if somebody falls down and God forbid really hurts themselves, and it's a long-term thing, and they want money from wherever they can get it, then we're covered.
Of course. No, that just
You
makes
know?
sense. I just meant like if something breaks and you don't have enough money to fix it, it's still a town building. The town should be aware so the town can then address accordingly. You know what I mean? Just to know like
Like,
if we're
give me an
part-
example of what breaks.
like this, like if this broke and the CPC said, no, we're not paying for it, and you don't have enough money, but it's an alarm system, it's a town building, we want to make sure that it's safe or it's secure or it needs something, the town would be, as part of its capital improvement and part of its capital planning, would take that into consideration for all of its other buildings that it owns and operates to some extent. So the.
So
agreement
you're saying that the money would come out of the town budget rather than CPC?
Well, I'm talking about creating more of a partnership, right? Because there's, you know, the town has historically said, okay, well, the Historical Society is going to run and operate the building. It's not ours. We don't need it. This is broken. You do this. This is broken. You take care of it. And then you're on the hook to maintaining the whole building. So sometimes that's difficult based upon what's happening within that particular year, whether or not you're holding enough events or whether or not you have enough money or you're taking in enough income to provide those improvements. But I'm just saying that if we partner together, when it works, we can support the efforts, and when you can help and pitch in and you provide it, you can provide it, but that we're all working towards the same goal and we're communicating so that there's no lapse in making sure that all of the money that the town has invested in refurbishing the entire building doesn't fall to the wayside because of something that happens, you know what I mean? It is still a town building at the end of the day, and we should be responsible for that and the way that we can be. Obviously, we don't have all this extra money to just throw at that particular building, and we appreciate the efforts of the Historical Society to maintain the building while it's operating the building. But I just meant in terms of a planning effort, we should all kind of be on the same page of what's being put into the building so that if there's any type of like contingency plan, that we know what needs to be done in order to make sure that it's.
Well, you know, I'm sure if this had been brought up previously, it would have been addressed. because I have no, problem with that. And I don't think the attorney will.
So,
Back to the 1245.
yeah, so we'll take a vote. But consider supplying an annual financial report to the town, because I think it would, as I said, increase transparency
I
and
think
help
it's
the
very important,
town.
especially when you're asking for town funds.
Yes, right, exactly.
And nobody in the right mind is gonna reject it and saying,
No,
no,
right.
this doesn't need an alarm system. Of course it
Right.
does.
Right, right. Okay, so we'll take a vote. All in favor of the motion to supply 1245 for the alarm system at Washington Hall, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you.
The second one is a request for $22.50 to cover the cost of appraisal fees of a property at 114 Center Street, which is primarily open space that the town is interested in purchasing. In addition, there's a building on the property that the water department is potentially interested in, and so they are paying for half of the appraisal cost. The reason why we're getting an appraisal on is because you really can't negotiate with anybody unless you know what the value of the property is. So that's always, unfortunately, it's expensive, but that's what you need to do before you even start to talk to the owners of the property. So, I think, Rebecca, you're really requesting the $22.50 to pay for half of the appraisal.
Was that 2,250?
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to vote on that?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to use $2,250 from the administrative funds to cover half the cost of the appraisal at 114 Center Street.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion or questions on the motion?
Narrow down 114.
Yes. 114 Center Street is approximately 17 acres that are next to the church. It's owned by the church right now. And it also includes the former EPA, Mass DEP building, brick building that's kind of behind Valley Screw. And that's the building that the water department's interested in, the brick building. Okay. I guess we're ready to take a vote. All in favor of $22.50 for the appraisal at 114 Center Street, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous. Okay. I passed out the minutes from February 10th, 2022, and June 13th, 2022. If you want any further time to read them, those are the minutes from those two meetings. Or we can take a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion on, well, we can do them both at the same time.
Yeah,
on both. They seem to be in order.
Yep,
I'll second that.
okay.
There are two of them.
Yeah.
All right. Any further questions or discussion on the motion? No? Okay, so all in favor of approving the minutes for 2/10/22 and 6/13/22 of the CPC committee, say aye. Aye. I think that was unanimous. Okay.
Any follow-up on the 6/13 meeting on the Congregational Church?
I haven't heard from them at all. I'm trying to think the last time I talked to them, I think the last time I talked to them was before the June meeting. I had been there in May, or April and May, somewhere in there. And they were proceeding along the lines, and I actually was expecting to maybe hear from them sometime this fall, but I never did. So I'm going to try to get back in touch with Sandy Keene and see what's going on there. Okay, the last thing is committee membership. We have a little bit of a dilemma that's been building in that our membership is defined by a town bylaw that was put into place after Community Preservation Act was approved in town, and it says who are the members of the committee. Currently, there's supposed to be 9 members of the committee, and they're all drawn from different boards and committees in town. Unfortunately, 2 of our committees don't exist anymore. The Open Space and Trails Committee and the Affordable Housing Committee both are non-existent in town. So that means we, instead of having 9 members, we only have 7 members, even though still it's stated that we're supposed to have 9 members. We will never have 9 members because there's nobody from those committees to be here. So it makes it, obviously, it makes it tricky to, for one thing, to have a meeting, because sometimes we have quorum issues. But even more than that is we don't have any representation, particularly from affordable housing or open space and trails. So we have to, here's what I think our options are, is we can change the bylaw and just eliminate those 2 representatives.
No.
Okay? Just go down to 7 instead of 9.
We collect money, 3%, that should cover the affordable housing.
Yeah,
If not, we'll cut the amount that we're collecting, we'll go down to 2%.
well,
30
that's
35
one viewpoint.
How do we get that? Affordable housing is one of those things. How do we get a committee?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I'm willing to step up and become a member of a committee, said committee, but I don't know anything about it.
Yep.
That should be in conjunction with the Housing Authority.
Well,
think
we
so.
do have a representative from the Housing Authority, right? That's one of the 9 is the Housing Authority. So normally, we'd get 2 housing committees, and we'd get input from both of those. Right now, we're only getting 1. Betty's not here
Jimmy had mentioned
tonight.
earlier that
Yep.
we haven't used any money for the affordable housing, and that's something that we should be looking into.
Right. Well, you're right, because see, that makes it harder when we don't even have advocates here at our meeting for housing. You know, I mean, Betty's not here tonight, so it's like we have nobody here saying anything about, hey, you gotta spend some money on affordable
Well,
housing.
the thing is how much money do we have in the affordable housing part today?
We
roughly?
have, with the 22 money, we'll have $552,695.
Quite a bit of money, isn't it?
Yeah. And plus, we have unspent money, too, you know, projects that were approved, that Rebecca mentioned before.
Wasn't the last one Bob Guptill when he moved out of town?
Yeah. But the Affordable Housing Committee has been defunct for quite a while. You know, they couldn't get members.
Well, let me ask you a question. Out of these two committees, open space and affordable housing, it sounds like affordable housing is on people's mind and more present than open space, because we are accomplishing some of the open space
Yes.
through some of the other things
Yes,
that we've been
right,
handling.
through conservation and
Exactly, so
recreation,
that's taken
right.
care of. It's the affordable housing that we gotta discuss, and how do we go do about that?
Yes.
Again, I'm more than willing to step up, but
Maybe there's a potential of taking a look at whether or not you could involve the town planner in more of that role, considering the fact that any type of programming and/or actual implementation of affordable housing is not really gonna be carried out by this committee. It's gonna be a directive from this committee to an individual to carry out such. And sitting behind a desk, you have a lot more of a different perspective of the day-to-day activity, and maybe that would be a helpful opinion to have, since we don't have an affordable housing committee. We do have somebody from the Groveland Housing Authority present, and trying to see if that would be a member that would be beneficial in terms of the committee instead of, I mean, if you could appoint an
That would be
employee to the
number 8.
position. I don't know if there's like the term that you would use in terms of doing that, but
Well, do you think we could reconstitute the Affordable Housing Committee?
I don't know.
we can try. It's just really hard getting volunteers to participate now anyway, just in terms of what they already do. I know, like yourself and others are constantly volunteering for multiple boards and putting in your time and effort to do so. So to get somebody else to sign up for that is very difficult. I think that it might be some potential in terms of the master plan. And, you know, we do have that master plan steering committee that's set up right now, but we're gonna need to continue that in some way, shape, or form in order to carry out and implement the plan and make sure that it doesn't sit on a shelf and become defunct. So maybe there's a way to incorporate that as part of it, because the master plan committee is something that takes into housing into consideration, as well as economic development initiatives, which aid in housing production and commercial retail development. So it might be beneficial to maybe use that committee instead of the just specifically focused on housing. So there's a broader mission and there's more interest for people to be involved and to participate and to volunteer their time, because the mission is more comprehensive, but yet very still focused on housing, especially in a small community like Groveland.
All the municipalities are having problems with filling committees and volunteer positions. It's very difficult. People just don't have the time anymore.
It's
What's
certainly
the
not
minimum
unique to
number?
Groveland.
What's the minimum number for a committee?
So if you
Used
added
to
that.
be 3,
If you added that committee,
Yeah.
that would be 8.
yeah,
Right, but you need 3 on the board in order to have a successful committee, correct?
yeah.
On which committee?
Whatever.
If you had a committee.
Oh, yes.
That's what I'm saying, you need
But
3
we have
members of the
members for
board.
the master plan committee now.
Right.
Granted, 2 of them sit on this board.
Take your writ.
But if we made it a specific committee, you know, in terms of implementation and moving into the next step for the master plan, maybe there's a way of making that more formal. It's not no longer, you know, maybe there's a way of increasing the membership within that committee so it allows for greater participation.
Yeah.
But what it really does is cover ourselves, because now we have a designated, now we could bring that to the table. Like you were saying, now we can have a voice, what we can do with the monies in for.
That's a committee thing, but I'm looking for execution. I mean, I know Rebecca put the original one, which is like a mortgage subsidy, for lack of a better one. Maybe there's another thing we could pay for maintenance costs for people in town, something, an option that will give people money in their hand. And at least we're taking money and giving it out. Right now, we just take this money, we have nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
So we either gotta say CPC is not 3%, we'll reduce it, and because it's not working. I know it's not simple, And I know there's been the problem is we're good at writing master plans, and they wrote one. We're not good at execution on that. So,
No, I agree, and I think that it all starts with the planning process before implementation can take place, so that you have a sound blueprint in order to move forward. But I will honestly say to you, my issue is capacity. I want to do more in terms of housing development and in terms of housing programs to help make things affordable and create more programs like you're talking about, whether or not you can't just give monies out to people for housing improvements, but based upon income requirements, maybe you would benefit from a program that would allow you to put in certain, improvements to your household like they do for veterans and handicapped and things of that nature, but I just don't have the time. So
what about
maybe
the
it's
town
about,
planner?
well, that's what I mean, and I don't know if she has the time, so I think maybe you could use some of the funds to invest in somebody
Well-
to help put that in place.
We previously voted to hire a CPA administrator. So that person could, besides helping us, could also do that work, right?
So that would be beneficial, because I think the real big thing is capacity, because like you said, they're difficult programs to put in place, and they require constant babysitting, and you have to stay on it over and over
It's
and
not
over
like a
again.
skate park, okay? No, I'm serious. I
Well, you
mean,
can't just build it and walk away.
it's not like, we've got to water some trees here. Okay, this is a little more complicated. And
Mike, didn't we, you mentioning to hire somebody, didn't we approve at the town meeting to hire somebody to administer these CPA projects?
Not a town meeting, but we voted to spend money on it, like out of our administrative funds,
That
yeah.
was a while ago.
Yeah, yeah. And so, why don't you see what you can put together to propose what that would mean and what they might do? You know, we don't need a real extended job description, but besides helping us a few months out of the year, that would be another thing that person could do, right?
You can do that.
All right.
So, another idea is to get a member of the general public appointed to this committee who has an interest in affordable housing, you know? Like, is there somebody out there who, they have experience, they've lived in affordable housing, they've helped, or something else, some expertise. There's gotta be somebody in town who is passionate about affordable housing.
Well, in terms of what Jim said about putting money in people's hands, would another viable option be more like the way the housing and urban development used to be? When you were looking at a house that didn't qualify for a loan and it was a HUD-owned property, they would step up and pay to have a new roof put on so you could actually get the loan to get the property. Because once you start looking at some of these properties that are a little more dilapidated, that are cash only, bringing them up to spec and getting a loan becomes much more easier.
So the more affluent towns and cities have this whole thing covered. I mean, they have many options. Like you go to Newton, they have somehow they pay for maintenance for someone that qualifies under affordable. So, but we don't have those kind of resources. So, you either got to stand at the corner of Main and the Groveland Bridge with cash in your hand and hope that, I just want to help people. And right now, we're taking money and we're not giving it back.
Yeah.
So I know it's not easy, but we're collecting the money.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like I said before, we've had a hard time
Yeah.
spending this portion of money, and obviously you can see the dollar figure there, it's hard to spend that money. And, even though we had a project, even that was difficult. We keep hitting these roadblocks because it isn't easy. So whatever we can do to improve that. So we've got a couple ideas. We probably need to think about it, because we need to kind of make a decision before the end of February, because this is going to take a town meeting vote to change the bylaw slightly. It's not a big deal, but it will require a town meeting vote to change the bylaw. So we've got to get it in before the warrants close. So we'll think about that. The last thing I've got is our next meeting. So I am proposing that we meet again on Thursday, January 26th.
Same time?
Yeah, so we'll meet at 5:30. That's good for you, Jim, right? 5:30?
Is
I
the-
won't be here. I'm going to be away that week,
That,
but
Okay,
just want you to know.
okay. Well, good thing we heard from you tonight.
we couldn't do it on a Monday, could we?
Well, unless we do it February, what is it, February 2nd is the following Monday?
Well, that's the Monday after the Thursday, right?
No, well, we can't do,
It's just that I gotta make arrangements. and
yeah,
Thursday
sure, I
doesn't-
understand.
5:30 is great.
What's the first Monday in February?
I don't know.
Because Selectmen is
The
meeting.
6th.
Oh, select.
Oh, that's February 6th, yes, sorry, not the 2nd. So February 6th, we could do February 6th, if that's all right.
There's no selectmen meeting, because.
No,
I'll meet the 30th.
Anyone okay with February 6th? I don't wanna hog the, okay.
Yeah, that works for me.
yeah, so you'll be here, so there's two reasons why we could change it to that.
Okay.
All right,
At 5:30?
yeah, 5:30.
Yeah.
February 6th.
And you'll have the proposals, people to talk about the different proposals.
Yes, that's primarily, at our next meeting, we'll hear from hear about the remaining 8 projects. And then I'm gonna look at, see what we've gotta do. We may need to, I would say we're probably gonna have to meet once more after that to actually make a decision, because on all of these, when we hear about the project, there's always questions. We want people to maybe make some changes or bring more information back to us before we make a final decision on it. So we probably will have to meet again, middle of February or so, maybe a couple weeks after that. Okay. Any other items? I don't have anything else. So
7:15.
I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Nicely done.
Motion
I
to
will even
adjourn.
second that.
It's at 7:16. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Opposed?
Has
Unanimous.
anyone ever opposed?
Yeah, well, you
Happy
never
New
know.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.